Good evening, everyone. Today, I want to tell you the story of a woman whose courage didn't just change her life, it changed the future of her entire family. Imagine carrying the weight of mistakes, hardships, and cycles of struggle that have lasted for generations. Many of us inherit more than just a family name. We inherit patterns, fears, and limitations that whisper, "This is all you can ever be." But what happens when someone decides enough is enough? What happens when one person dares to break those chains? This is the story of a woman who refused to accept that her past defined her. She grew up in a family where poverty and unspoken trauma shaped every choice, where words like, "you'll never make it," were passed down like heirlooms. And yet, instead of letting those chains dictate her life, she began to challenge them, quietly at first, with small steps that seemed insignificant at the time. She worked harder, she asked questions, she sought knowledge, and most importantly, she believed in possibilities that no one else around her could see. Every day was a battle. Old patterns tried to pull her back, whispers of doubt tried to convince her that she wasn't enough, and society often told her that a woman from her background had limits. But she didn't stop. She turned every obstacle into a stepping stone. She learned to forgive, not just others, but the circumstances of her past. She understood that breaking generational chains was not just about her own success. It was about creating a legacy where future generations could breathe freely, dream boldly, and live without the invisible shackles she had carried for so long. And here's the most powerful part. She didn't just break these chains for herself. She became a beacon of hope. She showed her siblings, her children, and everyone around her that courage isn't loud. It's persistent. It's the decision to rise even when the world says you should stay down. She proved that one person's determination can rewrite a story that has been repeated for decades. That one brave soul can change the trajectory of an entire family. From the moment she first understood the patterns that had shaped her family, she felt a quiet storm building inside her. She saw the weight of past mistakes, the invisible chains of fear, and the expectations that whispered, "This is who you are. This is all you can be." Most people would have accepted that quietly, resigned to their fate, but not her. Something deep within refused to bow to the story that had been written before she even had a chance to write her own. Every brave woman knows that courage often begins as a quiet thought, a small, stubborn belief that says, "I will not be defined by what came before me." That belief is what set her on a path that no one else in her family dared to walk. She didn't start with grand gestures. She started with awareness. She noticed the cycles of struggle, the habits passed down like invisible heirlooms, and the limitations that others took as inevitable. And instead of shrinking from them, she leaned in, asking questions, seeking understanding, and refusing to allow fear to dictate her choices. Every step she took, no matter how small, was a declaration of defiance. Every decision to think differently, act differently, or dream differently was a subtle rebellion against generations of expectation. She realized that courage isn't a single heroic act. It's a series of intentional choices, repeated day after day, even when the world says it's easier to stay quiet. And the world did not make it easy for her. There were voices, loud and convincing, that tried to convince her to follow the same path that had trapped those before her. There were moments when doubt crept in, when the weight of history seemed too heavy to bear. Yet she learned something crucial. Courage doesn't come from the absence of fear, but from the decision to move forward despite it. Every time she challenged a family pattern, every time she rejected a limiting expectation, she wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for the generations yet to come. Her story reminds us that the first step in breaking free is the willingness to confront what came before. Courage is contagious, and it begins with a single brave choice. She understood that the moment she stopped accepting inherited limits was the moment the chains began to weaken. And in that moment, she discovered a truth that every brave woman knows. Freedom begins when we dare to rewrite the story that was never meant to define us. Life threw obstacles at her as if to test whether she truly had the strength to change her story. Every day seemed to present a new challenge: financial struggles that felt insurmountable, societal expectations that whispered she wasn't enough, and old family patterns that tried to pull her back into the cycle she was determined to escape. Most people, when faced with such relentless pressure, would have slowed down or given up. But she had something different: an unshakable determination that refused to be silenced. She understood early on that persistence is not just about enduring. It's about moving forward even when the path is unclear, even when every step feels heavier than the last. She learned to see obstacles not as walls, but as tests of her resolve, and each test became a reason to rise higher, to prove to herself that she could and would overcome. There were moments when the weight of it all threatened to crush her spirit. Nights spent worrying about the future, days filled with repeated setbacks, and the constant pressure of proving herself again and again could have broken anyone. But she refused to allow the setbacks to define her worth or her potential. Every failure became a lesson, every disappointment became fuel, and every hard day was a reminder that she was building something far bigger than herself. Persistence, she discovered, is not glamorous. It's quiet, grueling, and often invisible. But it is in those moments, the moments when no one is watching, when the world seems to doubt you, that true courage is born. What made her story extraordinary was that she refused to let the world set the limits for her. While others settled, she kept pushing. While others accepted enough, she demanded more, for herself and for the generations who would come after her. She understood that persistence is contagious. It inspires others simply by existing. Every time she chose to rise instead of giving up, she became a beacon of possibility, showing that no matter how heavy the burden, no matter how deeply rooted the patterns, determination can break through even the strongest barriers. Her life became living proof that persistence is not just about survival. It's about transformation. It's about refusing to be defined by your circumstances and daring to believe that with every forward step, no matter how small, you are reshaping your destiny. She demonstrated that greatness is rarely born in comfort. It is forged in the moments when you refuse to quit, even when quitting feels easier. She realized early on that her courage and persistence were not just about changing her own life. They were about rewriting the story for everyone who came after her. She understood that breaking generational chains required more than personal victories. It required creating a foundation that would last long after she was gone. Every choice she made, every value she embraced, became a brick in the legacy she was building. She refused to allow the mistakes, limitations, and fears of the past to dictate the future. Instead, she imagined a world where her children, her siblings, and even generations she might never meet could live without the invisible burdens she had carried. That vision became her guiding light, and every action she took was aligned with it. Her legacy was not built in grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It was built in the small, deliberate decisions she made every single day. Decisions to speak up when silence would have been easier, to invest in her own growth when distractions tempted her to settle, to practice patience and empathy when frustration could have taken over. She understood that the habits she modeled, the lessons she taught, and the courage she displayed would ripple outward, touching lives in ways that she could not always see. This understanding gave her an unshakable sense of purpose. Every sacrifice she made, every struggle she endured, became meaningful because it was for something bigger than herself. She also realized that a true legacy is about possibility. By refusing to accept the limits imposed on her by circumstance, she demonstrated to her family that they too could aim higher, dream bigger, and rise stronger than any obstacle. She became a living example that courage is not inherited. It is cultivated, nurtured, and shared. With each barrier she broke, she opened doors that had been locked for decades, proving that change is possible and that one person's bravery can ripple across time. Her story teaches a vital truth. Creating a legacy is not about wealth, recognition, or fame. It is about breaking patterns, fostering resilience, and planting seeds of hope that will grow long after one life ends. She showed that every choice matters, that every act of courage builds a foundation for those who follow, and that the most powerful gift one can give is the freedom to live without fear, limitation, or the weight of the past. Through her vision, determination, and bravery, she transformed not only her own destiny, but the future of her entire family, leaving a legacy that will inspire for generations. Her journey was never meant to be solitary. She understood that courage is not only about changing your own life, it is about the ripple effect your actions create. Every time she rose above fear, every time she refused to accept the limits imposed by her past or her surroundings, she became a living testament to what is possible. People around her could see the strength she carried, the choices she made, and the way she refused to be defined by circumstances. Her story became more than a personal triumph. It became a spark that ignited hope in others who had been quietly struggling with the same doubts, fears, and patterns she once knew so intimately. She knew that true inspiration is not found in words alone. It is found in action. It is in showing up when it would be easier to hide, in choosing courage when fear demands surrender, in pursuing dreams when the world says they are unreachable. Each step she took, each boundary she broke, became a lesson in resilience for those who watched her. Her friends, her family, and even strangers began to see that transformation is possible when one refuses to settle for a life shaped by the past. Her actions said what words could not, that change is not only achievable, but it is contagious. What made her story extraordinary was that she never sought recognition. She didn't rise to inspire others. She rose because it was necessary for her own survival and freedom. And in doing so, she became a beacon of hope for anyone willing to witness her journey and take courage for themselves. Her life demonstrated a vital truth. The bravest thing a person can do is not only to rise for themselves, but to rise in a way that allows others to rise with them. Every act of bravery, every choice to persevere, every refusal to give in to the weight of generational struggles sent a message that change is possible, and that anyone, anywhere, can break free if they are willing to step forward. Through her example, she taught that inspiration is not about perfection or overnight success. It is about showing up consistently, making choices that align with your values, and refusing to be defined by fear. Her courage became a mirror for others to see their own potential. She proved that one person's determination can create a movement, one act of bravery can ignite countless others, and one woman's choice to act can forever change the lives of everyone who witnesses her story. Her journey reminds us that action, grounded in courage and conviction, is the most powerful form of inspiration a human being can offer. So, I ask you today, look at the chains in your own life. What has been passed down to you, quietly shaping your choices? And more importantly, what can you do to break free and create a new legacy? Because like this remarkable woman, we all have the power to rise, to break patterns, and to inspire generations we may never even meet. Courage is contagious, and change begins with the brave decision to say, I will not be defined by my past. I will define my future. Thank you.